Hey YouTube, I just wanted to get on here and post a quick update about a couple things that are coming up in my life, and also talk a little bit about the DAT because I keep getting a ton of questions about studying for the DAT. But the main thing, or I guess I'll talk about the updates. So the updates are that I am currently working a lot to save up money to move across the country, since I'm moving from California to Maryland, and it's quite expensive. It's going to be me, my fiance, and our dog and cat moving in with my best friend that I've known since middle school, that I met in Maryland. So that's super exciting. I am looking forward to this. It's just very time consuming, and it's just very expensive too. I'm planning on moving there in mid-July, and then classes start in August. So that's kind of what's coming up for me, and what I've been up to is just kind of a lot of working. And I also really got into, at least trying to get better at meal prepping and creating some healthy habits to have, so that my dental school life will be a little bit easier. But I have a couple messages that I sent to a couple people. I said a couple times. But I have a couple messages that I want to read that I've sent to people because they keep asking me questions about the DAT. And I said this, I understand that people want to prepare the most they can for the DAT, and they always look at what other people did to kind of help them, prepare for, each section. But I think that everyone's DAT is different. I think that there's a harder and an easier version of the exam, and it's really random on what kind of exam that you're gonna get. The test that I got, the bio section was highly focused on, genetics, evolution, cell bio, and I didn't have a lot of questions about anatomy and physiology, which I hadn't taken before I took the DAT. I took physiology, and I didn't do so well in physiology. I got a C, barely made a C in that class. And since then I've taken anatomy, but when I was studying for the DAT, I didn't have any background in anatomy, and was not very strong in physiology. But because my bio section was focused on classes and topics that I was very strong in, I was able to get a really high score. I got a 22 in the bio portion of the exam. But if it was heavy in other topics, I probably wouldn't have done so well. So it's kind of really random on what kind of exam that you're going to get, and whether or not you're going to be strong or weak at these topics. Also, when I was studying with a couple friends for the DAT, one of them took it the same day as me in a different area, and they got a completely different exam, and theirs was very difficult for them, and they didn't do so well, and they're having to retake the exam. So I think a lot of the DAT has to do with luck. Unfortunately, luck has to do with a lot of it. But also preparation does have, preparation does have a role in it as well. So I don't really think that there's a simple answer to how you should be studying for the DAT. And you see, if you ever go on DAT bootcamp, Facebook group, you'll see a ton of people posting their really high scores and how they studied for it. And I think it can be discouraging to see these high scores, because they may have gotten easier versions of the DAT, or they may have gotten the DAT that they got had sections that they were strong in, and so they did really well. But it can be very discouraging for people to see these kinds of scores if they maybe didn't do so well, or they, even if they got a good score, they didn't get, a 30 on each section or something, which I think when I first got my DAT score, I think I wasn't sure how to feel about it, because I had constantly seen a lot of people post their high scores. So I think not comparing yourself to those people is a good lesson to learn also for dental school as well, is what I hear. His comparison is like, the comparison is the worst, and will always bring you down if you keep comparing yourself to other people. But I think the best way to prepare for the DAT, I'll talk about this and then I'll talk about how I prepared for it, because people keep asking me about that. But I think the best way to prepare for the DAT is to take practice tests. So, and then work on whatever questions that you've missed, and really try to learn the material and not just study and memorize for the DAT, like for a test. And in all honesty, it really doesn't matter what platform that you use to study for it, whether that's Chad's videos, DAT Bootcamp, DAT Booster, Destroyer, whatever. It doesn't really matter. As long as you learn, it's the same content throughout all of them. They're just varying levels of difficulty and varying levels of like questions that they'll ask. And I mean, as a tutor, because I've been a tutor for like 5 or 6 years now, and everyone learns different. So if you're trying to study the same way as someone else does, you may not learn the material to the same extent that they did. Like, I remember studying with my 2 younger sisters. Sorry, I'm kind of shaking. But I remember studying with my 2 younger sisters, and sometimes I would spend the same amount of time studying the material as they did, but I seemed to not do as well. And that was just because it takes me longer to understand things. And I think it goes the same, or I think the same goes for studying for the DAT, is that everyone will study a little different. And yes, it's nice to have something to look at to know where to start, but I think you need to tailor the studying process to yourself, and kind of look at what portions that you're not doing so well and kind of focus on them. Like for me, that was the OChem section. So the way that I prepared for the DAT was I used DAT Bootcamp, and I used the Cliffs Notes and PAT Booster. So DAT Booster did not exist when I was studying for the DAT. They only had PAT Booster, and I used it because I heard good reviews about it. I can't compare PAT Booster to Bootcamp's PAT section because I didn't use Booster's PAT section. I honestly really liked Booster and just kind of ignored Bootcamp's PAT portion because I really liked Booster. I also, I guess this is another tangent, but I also think that if you are restudying for the DAT, so this is not your first time taking it, whatever things that you used before, you should try something new, because your old studying methods were not effective, so you should try something different and see if that works for you. Whether that, and also study in a group. I really think that having someone else there brings a different perspective on the same material. They'll ask questions that maybe you didn't think of, or phrase the material in a different way that might be easier to learn than the way that you were trying to learn it. Also, someone holds you accountable on studying and making sure you're getting in your studying hours and making sure they're effective studying hours instead of passive learning. When I was in school, I think the biggest issue that I had was studying for completion as opposed to studying for learning. And the DAT is definitely a learning thing. Like, instead of, oh, I completed all 25 of these questions and I got all of them correct. But you have to ask yourself, how much of this did I retain? How much of this did I guess or use educated guesses as opposed to remembering material? Also, when I say doing practice tests is super important, like, it's super important because you have to use active recall, and if you don't have these topics committed to memory, they're not going to be something that you can recall. And yeah, sorry, I'm going on like a bunch of different tangents. Normally I edit this video, but I'm just trying to edit this minimally because it takes me a long time to edit these videos, and then I never end up posting them because it takes me so long. But yeah, I would focus on those things. I used Cliff Notes at first to study, and then I studied OChem for a while. I studied OChem and used Cliff Notes for about 3 months, and then I studied like full time for 3 months. So total 6 months, but I would say that I only really honed in on studying full time the last 3 months. So for me, I would say like 6 months total, 3 months full time studying for the DAT. But it's going to be a different timeline for each person. I hear some people study for like 2 weeks and they do fine, or like some people study for a lot longer or a lot shorter amounts of time. The thing is, if you study for a lot longer, is that the things that you first learned will start to, like, you'll start to forget them when it's towards when you get towards the actual test date. Like for me, when I first started studying for OChem, like, yes, I gave myself a lot of time for OChem, but I honestly didn't give myself enough time to go and review all of it before the tests. And so I started to forget it. And that's why is this hair? I don't know. And that's why I maybe didn't do so well. So, yeah, I definitely would take a bunch of practice tests and kind of figure out exactly how you study, and not focus as much on how other people study. You can use other people's studying techniques as a place to start, or if you're not sure exactly how you learn best, you can use other people's studying techniques, see if they work for you, and if you're not able to apply them to yourself, like they're not working for you, then look for something else. I don't think that trying to continue to use the same study techniques and them not being effective, they're just going to waste your time. So try to tailor as much as you can to your studying style, your strong points, your weak points, and ask yourself at the end of the day, am I retaining this material? Am I like committing this to long-term memory? Can I actively recall this? And I think those are the most important parts. If you're not able to do that with your current studying style, try to change it up. Use flashcards if you didn't before, or write notes on each chapter if that's more effective for you, or draw diagrams or something like that. Maybe even just like find a partner and then both quiz each other. Something that might work best for you based on your learning style. And honestly, when I started studying for the DAT, I learned a lot about my learning style, because at first as a tutor, like, I only know my teaching style. I didn't really learn enough about how I learn. I only learned about how I tutor other people and how I teach, and to adapt to other people's learning styles. But I honestly just didn't know mine. So it was quite a learning experience for me studying for the DAT, and I think it was really helpful. But yeah, I could go on and on about this, but I'm going to try to make this quick, especially because I'm not going to edit any of this video. But yeah, I think I could go on about how I studied for the DAT, but just kind of, I don't think it would be helpful for anyone watching this to talk about how I studied for the DAT, because I don't want people following exactly what I did, because what I did may not work for you. So really just try to find exactly how you study and what's most effective for you, and use that. Don't try too much to try to follow other people's schedule. I know Ari's schedule is like a big one out there. Like, it works for some people, but don't worry if it doesn't work for you. Also tweak it if some of it works for you, but not all of it. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I have a bunch of other stuff to do today, and I'm holding my phone, so sorry if it was like very wiggly like that, because normally I have it on a stand, and I just kind of sporadically made this video. But anyway, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to contact me on Instagram. That's what I've been responding to most people's most people's comments. I also do try to respond to the comments underneath this video, but if you wanted like it to be more personal or private, just message me on Instagram. It's at Thinking in Dental. I'll leave my Instagram in the description below. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Good luck with everything. Good luck with studying for the DAT. Good luck with applications opening up soon. I have I have other videos on my channel going through the ADSES application or writing your personal statement. So check those out if they might be useful to you. If not, that's fine. But I will see you guys in the next video. All right. See you later. Bye.